Alright folks, are you ready? Let's see this Motorola Razr commercial first while we're getting ready. Alright, whatever. Hey folks, it is August 19, 2024, and it is about 6:09 p.m. Eastern Time, and welcome to the Mudita Heart stream. This is Mudita Heart, your host, and we're going over the history of anime this week. It's a very special edition because at the end of this week is going to be Anime NYC. So yeah, me and Pierre PhD will be going to that. Actually, we're not sure if Pierre PhD is going to that. We're going to see how it turns out. But he might go to it. And there will be plenty of content for that. So as a result, in celebration, we're going to be going over the history of anime and maybe even make a little bit of anime ourselves. Are you all ready? Hopefully you are, because it is Monday night, but in our hearts, it is Friday night. So join us for the Mudita Art stream. This keeps going for a while. Alright. Yeah. Oh man, I'm pumped. Man, I posted on a couple of Discords. Let's see how many people make it tonight. It's a little short notice, but we'll see. Alright, Mudita Art stream. And yes, the Mudita Art stream is your destination for the business and design of entertainment. Very awkward kind of tagline. I feel like it doesn't roll off the tongue, but I just gotta deliver it straight. The Mudita Art stream, your destination for the business and design of entertainment. And tonight we're going over the history of game design. I mean, history of anime. History of anime. But first, we're going to do a little bit of our warm-up exercises to get ourselves in the mood for the stream. So we did our intro, and segment 1, we'll do our review and news. Let's get some music going. Courtesy of Game Chops, which is all their music's free to use for your streams and podcasts. So yeah, thanks to Game Chops. Give a shout out to Game Chops. GameChops.com. Shout out to GameChops.com. And yeah, let's do some scoliosis exercises. I have scoliosis, so I like to do some scoliosis exercises before we start. Let's get started. Whoa, I've never seen Firefox not work like that before. Wow. What?
Are you suffering from scoliosis? In most cases, it's not known what causes it. If you have uneven shoulder, lower back pain, and difficulty breathing, it's important that we address this issue. Did you know that you can do some movement that manipulate the muscles that surround your spine? We can get rid of the pain if you practice the routine I'm about to show you. Your spine and shoulder will begin to realign. Let's get rid of the scoliosis pain. Hold your feet.
Don't forget the commands today, folks. And we also, if you're tuning in on Twitch, we also have sound alerts.
5. Now, circular motion.
Spam them away. Spam all the sound alerts away.
3.
Give me anxiety. Give me anxiety. I want to be desensitized on the internet age. Because that is what being online is all about. Being desensitized
3.
to countless possibilities of terrible, terrible things happening to you.
If you are doing
But
it
instead,
correctly.
it's just your buddies giving you a sound alert while you're doing a scoliosis exercise.
2, 3, 4, 5. Hold it for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax. Hold hand in this position. Left to right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right to left. 1,
It's better if I do it both this way.
3, 4,
Oh wow, if you keep going,
5.
feel the stretch.
Palm together. The back of the head.
I've been doing a lot of
Stand back. 1,
not exercising lately, so this is good.
2,
I did go for a nice long walk in my neighborhood on Sunday, but
If you
during
are
the
doing it
walk,
correctly,
I passed by
you
a
will feel
Korean
the
fried
tension
chicken
in
place.
your upper back if your palms are at your neck. This
Yeah.
side, left to right. 1,
And it's a place I've never been to before.
2, 3,
They had original seasoning
4,
and secret sauce, and I wanted to try both.
5.
And as a result,
Right to left.
Uh,
1,
oh my gosh, yeah, I'm still doing the Stream Elements. I signed up for Stream Elements promo. The Stream Elements promo for Genshin Impact. Forgot about that. I don't know if I'm gonna do it.
And now, extend your arms all the way back. 1, 2,
Oh, they got this music.
3,
Oh wow.
4,
Oh,
5. Hold it for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax.
in case
This
you
time,
wasn't obvious, I got both the
1,
original and the secret sauce.
3, 4, 5, and then 1, and
Oh,
2, 3, 4, 5.
I've been going to this.
One more stretch. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax yourself. Good. Back and relax. Do this 2 times a day, morning and evening for 3 weeks, and let me know how you get on.
Alright. Nice scoliosis exercise. Check. Let's see what else we got.
If you click on the notification,
Just give a check. I just feel like giving myself a check mark there. Hey, what up, Druku? Shout out to Druku. I was about to type in Drudu. Shout out to Druku there. Yeah, this is the scoliosis exercise guy I like to use. I don't know. It's just amusing. And yeah, I think PR PhD told me you were streaming some Fortnite the other day, Druku. How was that? I hope that went well. Hope you had some good times with Fortnite. I'm guessing you weren't sponsored. I could try to do this sponsorship for Genshin Impact and totally derail from my original plan. But like, I don't know, I also looked into Genshin Impact after I signed up for the Stream Elements campaign, and apparently Genshin Impact uses this anti-cheat software that like has like, it had this really scary sounding thing called Ring Zero Kernel Access, which means it's like the most lowest level kind of like firmware, hardware access to your computer. So like if people use some backdoor using Genshin Impact, then it could be really bad or whatever for cybersecurity purposes. So I don't know if I'm gonna play Genshin Impact today, but I don't know. It does seem appealing. I mean, like, I'll even show you what it looks like. Let's see what it looks like. I mean, this is what the sign up sheet looks like. Look, the anime characters. Look, you could play as Emily and Nilo and Navia and Yelan, and yeah, these people. Genshin Impact. I don't know. It's very, I don't know, very interesting. It's like a gacha game. It uses anti-cheat software that like can have access to your cybersecurity on your computer. I'm not using the grammar there correctly, but you know what I mean. Like, I don't trust it is what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm saying. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna get Genshin Impact. Even if you pay me, I don't know. Maybe at some point. Maybe if it pays me enough, I'll do it at some point. I'm a hypocrite. Let me see what else is going on. No updates on the Substack yet. Big true. These types of games come and go. Yeah, I mean, like Genshin Impact. Like, I don't even know how popular it's gonna be. Like, maybe that's why they're doing the promos and stuff. And like, also, like, I don't know. I'm not like that into this genre game itself anymore. I'm more into like indie games and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. But like, that's where all the like streaming promos are on. If I use Stream Elements, like, it's like trying to get me to get people to sign up for like gacha games and stuff like that, free to play, pay to win kind of games and all that, and very addictive and all that. And so it makes me feel nervous about, like, I don't know, is this really how I want to make money off of streaming or whatever? I really am looking. I would be willing to take on a sponsor. I'm gonna put that out there. I'm just gonna put that out there. If anyone has an idea for like what I could sponsor or be an affiliate for, I'd be happy to. Like, right now, I have like the Humble partner under my Twitch, and I have a link to my Bookshop affiliate account. So if you want to support independent bookstores, or if you want to support Humble bundles and support charity at the same time, that's things that I can kind of identify with. And if you use my Humble partner link, the charity it'll go to, I've specified as Doctors Without Borders, who's obviously helping in these humanitarian crises in this day and age. So I don't know, if you get a game bundle, you can support that. I don't know, that's my middle ground, I guess. So yeah, feel free to support. Do it if you want to support the stream. But I really don't care. I'm just happy to have people here, and just chill and have fun. So, all right. So let's see, Substack. We're gonna get to the anime history of anime, but we're just doing our warm up so far. It's still early in the stream. So yeah, there's our Substack. No updates yet. Maybe closest thing on the Substack front is that my memoir is underway. I'm working on book proposal writing now, and I'm trying to get my sample chapters ready for my book proposal. So if you want to stay tuned, just support my platform. That'll help my book proposal for sure. So yeah, if you're not already subscribed to my Substack, subscribe to my Substack. If you like any of the stuff on my Substack, please promote it. But I don't know. I do feel like in the near future, I'm going to start kind of like honing more of my social media presence and online platforms to be a funnel towards my memoir being published and stuff. So I don't know, that's just something that's in the works, so just be aware of that. And yeah, and speaking of that, just yesterday on Sunday, I went to a local open mic. It was my first time at the venue, and I did like a short excerpt reading from my memoir, 5 minutes long, and I talked about my experiences growing up and playing Final Fantasy VII and like me writing my own stories and drawing my own characters inspired by Final Fantasy VII, and like what my childhood was like, that like kind of made me withdraw into my own imagination, and what drew me to like being a hero of my narrative instead of like being a kid who's like, you know, being bullied on the schoolyard and stuff. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff I was talking about in my memoir, and what you can expect to see sometimes. So maybe that excerpt will go on my Substack at some point. But yeah, we're gonna stay tuned for that. So yeah, this piano music is very relaxing. I feel like Game Chops, I know them for their lo-fi music, but now they've got into the relaxing video game piano genre. So yeah, I'm down with it. I'm totally down. It makes me kind of sleepy, so maybe we could hype us up a little bit more. I don't know. Let's get a little bit of hype,
This
even
is
though
a message
lo-fi.
from Tom, who's been using Storytel Tactics
Okay.
for 2 years.
Thank you, Tom.
He says this.
I wish I got some ad revenue for promoting Tom's whatever. But yeah, okay, so let's see, what else we got? Let's see, what's up with Polygon? Oh, you know what? There is something going on now that I saw. Let's see, Nintendo Museum Direct. Maybe we could go over that a little bit since we're streaming right now. See if this is even showing anything yet. Yeah, instead of our news segment, we'll just watch the Nintendo Museum Direct. And yeah, this was streaming, it was warming up, and then finally it showed something 30 minutes, after 30 minutes of nothing. And I'm gonna hide the chat, because as much as they're I'm sure they're many are very nice people, we don't need more, let's say, distractions, as it were. So let's check out the Museum Direct, since this just happened today. And I literally didn't even see this until right before streaming. I'm like, oh, let's do a little segment on here. So it's only 15 minutes, and let's check it out. Let's go. Minasan, konnichiwa.
オープンに向けて
Shigeru Miyamoto
任
です。
天堂ミュージアムからお届けします。私は今ミュージアムの入り口のレセプションエリアにいます。建物の外観はこんな感じになっています。もともとこの場所にはトランプや花札を
It's
作って
built
いた
on the
任天
side.
堂の
Oh
工場があっ
wow,
て
that's going back
そ
into
の
its
頃は
history.
製品チェックをしたり、私もよ
Wow,
く
the
通ってい
original
た
Hana
懐か
Fuda
しい場所で
cards.
す。
Wow.
たくさんのトラックが出入りした広場はマリオの広場に生まれ変わりました。
Oh, that's fun.
そしてこの度、
Yeah, I
任
think
天堂製品
this is just getting me think like how they're doing theme parks, they're getting this museum, they're getting into the live experiences spaces. They're also doing the Nintendo stores also. Originally in Nintendo World at New York, now they just call it Nintendo New York. So yeah, they're trying to diversify a little bit here. So yeah, seems like a little bit of a trend we're seeing.
今日は任天堂ミュージアムがどのようなところなのかを駆け足でご紹介したいと思います。それでは中へどうぞ。
And of course, they're obviously entering Disney's competing with Disney with this kind of space. Wow, look at this. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool design.
はい、ここは2階の展示フロアです。2階は任天堂が創業以来発売してきたさまざまな製品を展示しています。ぐるーっと見渡すと、ビデオゲーム機を中心に過去から現在に至るまでのさまざまな製品が見渡せます。ここからは大きなコントローラーが目に入ります。
That's cool.
皆さんの興味があるものを自由にご覧ください。それぞれのハードに分けた展示と合わせて我々の独創性とチャレンジをご覧になれます。ご存知の方も多いと思いますが、任天堂はビデオゲ
Wait,
ームを
hold on. I
ずっと以前
just
から
I just thought of something. They have these big controllers. Are these functional? Could you play like a big round of like GoldenEye with like, somebody moving the control stick and somebody on the Z button. They keep it high above, which clearly they don't want people like climbing up there and stuff. So it seems like they don't want people interacting with it. But come on, once you see a giant controller, it makes me think I want to interact with it and play a giant game of like Super Mario 64 or something, Big Mario. Oh, no, there's like little Mario, and then you get the mushroom, and then you literally got Big Mario. Oh, the GoldenEye. They did show GoldenEye there. Blink and you miss it. They show GoldenEye there. They have everything here, I guess. There's GoldenEye.
皆さんの興味があるものを自由にご覧ください。それぞれのハードに分けた展示と合わせて我々の独創性とチャレンジをご覧になれます。ご存知の方も多いと思いますが、任天堂はビデオゲームを作るずっと以前から家庭の遊びを作ってきました。創業は今から135年前の1889年です。はじめは花札やカルタの製造が主な事業でした。それ以来任天堂はさまざまな遊びを生む玩具を作るようになり、それらがゲーム&ウォッチやファミコンへとつながってきました。ここではそのような昔の製品も振り返ってご覧いただけます。それではどんな展示になっているか少しだけ見てみましょう。こちらはファミコンの展示コーナーです。ご覧ください。日本向けと海外向けでハードのデザインが大きく違いますね。当時はこんな風に日本と海外でデザインを変えて売っていたんです。
Oh, right. Sometimes the designs
名前も違っていて、
were different,
ファ
but
ミ
then
コン
they
は
changed
日本以
as
外
they
では
were
任天堂エンタ
later
ー
on,
テイ
I
ンメント
guess.
システム、略して NES と呼ばれていました。そしてこちらはソフトです。日本向け、北米向け、ヨーロッパ向けでパッケージのデザインが
It's kind of staggering to think about how long this company's been
こ
around
のよ
for.
うに比べてみることでいろんなことを発
Through
見
many
していただ
different
ける展示になっています。
Gaming and gaming software and gaming hardware.
ミュージアムには任天堂が発売したすべてのタイトルを展示していますから、皆さんが遊ばれたタイトルをつけてください。上のモニターではそれぞれのゲーム画面も見られるようになっています。前に立つとそれぞれの音が聞こえるスピーカーになっていますよ。
Oh, directional speakers. Oh, cool.
では別の展示コーナーも
I'm kind of curious what the comments are saying, to be honest. No, it's disabled because it's Nintendo. They don't want you messing around.
進化を見ていただけます。
Oh, cool. Oh, that's cool that they drew a direct line of like lineage from the power pad for the NES to the Wii Fit and the Wii Fit balance board.
そしてここではハテナブロックのデザインがどのように
Design of the
進化して
question
きた
mark
かを
block changed
見
over
ていただ
time.
くことも
Oh,
できま
that's
す。
cool. Oh yeah, Mario 64 and then... Oh.
このコーナーでは
Mario 64 is pretty different, actually.
スーパーマリオやゼルダの
They
伝
put
説
them
な
all
どの
next to each other.
画面の進化を一気にご覧になれ
Oh,
ま
all the Mario games next to each other. That's so cool.
す。さて、こちらのコーナーでは多くの皆さんが知らない任天堂がビデオゲームを作る前の時代の製品を展示しています。これはコピラスといってジアゾ式のコピー機です。
Copy machine.
こちらにはママベリカ、ベビーカーがありますね。
Baby stroller.
任天堂は
Oh, interesting how he just points out the baby stroller, does not bother to comment on the rifle right here, up here,
ベビーカーがあります。
and the handgun revolver, and this roulette wheel. He's like, oh look, it's a baby stroller, everybody. Isn't that cute? Ignore this like this six-chambered revolver here and this hunting rifle. But in Nintendo's roots, we have this here baby stroller. I hope you appreciate our family-friendly company. You know, everybody, everybody love Nintendo, No, yeah, it's all good.
ますね。任天堂はトランプや花札に始まり、ボードゲームやラジコンカー、バッティングマシン
Board
など
games. Okay, they had
いろいろな
chess.
ファミリ
Okay,
ー向け
RC
の玩具を
cars.
作っていました。
various other family-friendly toys. There it is.
そしてこの
Okay, here. Okay, it's a light gun.
ゲ
Okay.
ームセンターなどの
It's a very realistic-looking light gun, I will say. I feel like this. Speaking of Anime NYC, which is at the end of this week, I do not think this light gun would make it into a gaming convention unless you added like some bright colors to it or something.
ゲームセンターなど
It
の
looks
ゲーム機を
too
作り始めたん
realistic,
ですね。
I think. Too,
これは
like even like just the idea that it could scare somebody into thinking it's real is something you don't want at a large gathering of people where in a concentrated area. So yeah.
初めて作った家庭用のビデオゲーム機、テレビゲーム6と15です。ちょうど私が入社した1977年に発売されました。
Oh, interesting. Wow, you joined in 1977. Wow,
一
he
つ
goes
一つ
way
の
back.
製品を見るとユニークな製品作りを続けてきたことがわかります。このようにミュージアムの2階では任天堂の過去の製品をたくさん展示しています。
Okay, they're on the
そし
second
て
floor.
遊びがどのように進化しつながってきたかをお見せします。今日お見せしたのはごく一部ですからぜひ実際に見に来てください。
So I guess there's going to be plenty
1
more.
階に移動しましょう。1階は
So the first floor.
違ったエリアになっていますよ。
See something completely
はい
different.
1階に置いて
Hey,
みま
what's
した。
this?
ご覧の通り1階の中央は
Giant
グライ
screen
ナ
on
モ
the
ニターになってい
floor.
ます。こんな感じで皆さんもこのモニターの上
Stand
に乗
on
って
top of the
百人
screen.
一首を遊んでいただくことができます。
Play Japanese card game.
スマートフォンと組み合わせて遊びますよ。このようにミュージアムの1階のフロア
First
は
floor is full of
インタラクティブに
interactive
体験ができる
experiences
エ
for
リア
you
に
to
なってい
enjoy.
るんです。過去に任天堂が作ってきた製品を今の時代に蘇らせるとどんな遊びになるか、そんなテーマで8つの体験を作ってみました。
Games from the past into the modern
ミュージアムに入る時に渡される
world. We've made
この
created 8
入
experiences.
館証にコインが入ってるんですが、体験にはそのコインを使います。
Well, also, I think this is interesting. This is the badge, and like is the date, July 2nd, 2024. Here's the time of entry, and here's his name, Shigeru Miyamoto, and like here's like a stamp number here. I don't know if you can see it, but if you zoom in here, it says 00C0001. So Shigeru Miyamoto is visitor to the museum visitor number 1.
コインが入ってるんですが、体験にはそのコインを使います。今日は8つある体験の中から3つを紹介しましょう。さあ、こちらは小さな部屋がいくつか並んでいますね。どんな体験ができるのでしょう。ここは1968年に発売されたウルトラマシンが体験できるんです。ウルトラマシンはピンポンの球のようなボールを自動で投げてくれる
Pitching.
部屋の中でプレーできるバッティングマシンでした。私が入社したのは改訂版のウルトラマシンデラックスが発売される年でした。少しだけ仕上げに関われました。その頃は社内にプレイルームというのがあって、昼休みにはアーケードゲームやウルトラマシンを遊んでいました。こちらに並んだ部屋は当時の家庭を再現しています。
Oh wow,
部
recreation
屋
of
に置かれてい
Japanese
るもの
homes
が違
back
うの
then.
で、お好みの部屋を選んでください。では早速体験してみましょう。床にウルトラマシンが置かれているのが分かりますか。では早速打ってみましょう。
Wait, is he gonna
あ、欲し
he's
い。
gonna hit the is the ball gonna hit the stuff in the house? Oh, you're supposed to hit it? That's so cool, and it interacts. Wow. I feel like that's like people are gonna like whack it. Like, definitely if you get some Americans in there, they're gonna like try and break something as hard as they can. Like, also if you get little kids in there with little bats, they're just gonna start hitting things. Like, I don't know, is there something to stop them from going across the room or something? Little kid just like bam 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 bam, make the Pikmin go bam 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 bam, Mario Luigi bam bam bam. I guess all this stuff's on the upper shelf, so maybe they can't hit it.
左右に打ち分けてパー&スコープ SP という遊びです。 任天堂は
like just any time you have, like people are gonna try and break the thing no matter what. Like how
業務用の
it's
シューティン
how
グ場を
escape
展開
rooms
します
work.
このレーザークレイを今の技術で体験できるように作ってみたのがザッ
It's like how once you get people like interacting with an environment, they're gonna start trying to think of new ways to try and break it and stuff. Like there's a story I heard from my professors at NYU Game Center where like they were in like this escape room that was like they had a bunch of game designers they were hosting for it, and like in the escape room, like they had like they had a lot of other stuff, but like they just had like this thing at a moment that was like, oh, it's a notepad and you can write on it for notes. And part of the puzzle of it was that, oh, if you start like rubbing graphite on the notepad, you could see what people in the previous notes wrote because they indented into the notepad, because that's what you do. And that's part of the game. But because they had game designers running, like playing the escape room, they also noticed there was a typewriter. And then the game designers was like, wait a second, if we disassemble this typewriter, we could see which keys were pressed the most, because that's the same principle as the notepad. Obviously, they were not supposed to do this and like take apart a really complex mechanical thing. So they had the moderator, like escape rooms often have moderators, like, and the moderator told them, no, you're not supposed to do that. But like, yeah, if you didn't have the combination of game designers using their out-of-the-box thinking and the combination of the suggestion of the sketch pad, like, they wouldn't have done that. Like, if they didn't have the sketch pad, they wouldn't have even thought of doing that necessarily. But then, like, they made the connection between the two. So, like, you gotta be really careful how people interact with things. And also, another thing, Patrick Klepek from formerly at Waypoint, now at Remap Radio, he has his own Substack blog about parenting and games and stuff. And, like, he talked about, like, some of the affordances of, like, the Nintendo theme park attraction, and how like his kids could lose at playing the theme park attraction, and like the parents weren't allowed to intervene, so the kids would just try as hard as they could to like pump this wheel or whatever, and like even though they tried their very hardest, they would fail and they would leave in tears. Like, it was terrible. So yeah, it's very tough to design for like all the different kinds of audiences that could be coming in for like all these kinds of attractions. And yeah, you're not like, there are even like people telling the like staff at the attraction telling the adults, oh, you're not allowed to help the kids. And it's like, what? Why not? We paid money. We paid like $100+ to be in this park, and like we can't even like, you know, play this game the way we want to. And now my kids are gonna cry. Thanks a lot. And it's like a hot sunny day. We came out here on a vacation. Everyone's cranky. We haven't had enough snacks. We've been on our feet all day. We've been trying to get to this part of the park the whole day, and you ruined our vacation. Let me show that. Let me show that clip from The Simpsons.
From yon mold.
What a crappy candle!
You've ruined our vacation. You, gentle sir, are fired.
Bam! Sorry, so that way louder than I was expecting. Sorry.
Gentle sir, are fired.
No. So yeah, Homer was struggling. Yeah, it's really a struggle with those attractions and stuff. So you gotta be careful with that. You ruined our vacation.
and Scope SP です。
Alright, Nintendo Museum. Let's hopefully not ruin our vacation
今
here.
日はミュージアムのスタッフの皆さんと一緒にプレイしたいと思います。光線銃は2種類ありますね。片手で素早く撃てる
Two light guns, the one-handed zapper
標準がついた
and the one with a sight on it called the Super Scope.
このどちらかを選びます。NES の光線銃と スーパーファミコンのスーパーストープを
Recreations of the NES Zapper and the Super Famicom
今日は
series.
私はこちらのザッパーを使ってみます。
Oh, this is in the museum? This is so cool. This has got to be in the parks, right?
マリオやピーチを撃ったらダメですよ。
Don't shoot Mario or Peach.
クッパ、のこのこ
Aim and shoot at the
狙っ
Koopa
て撃ちましょう。
Troopas.
さあ、はい出てきました。
I kind of, I don't know why I kind of like got the vibe. Like, let's just listen to this part again.
のこのこ狙って撃ちましょう。さあ、はい出てきました。
I don't know, maybe this is because of my own projection here, but he gives me the vibe of like, look, shoot at the Koopa Troopas. Look, it's so much fun, everybody. Look at there's so many of them. Good job, everyone. Like, I don't know, he's trying to like, aren't we having fun, everybody? I don't know, maybe, just like, it feels like I've been doing this for so long. I've been at this company since 1977. It's still Koopa Troopas, still Mario, and I just got to keep it up for the kids at this point. Like I'm projecting here. I don't know if Miyamoto's actually like that, but I mean probably to some degree. Like I feel like most people would get tired of doing this sort of thing after a while. I think there's been interviews where he's mentioned he's been a little like he's mentioned like how like Nintendo has been a place where he's been for a very long time, and he's like drawn inspirations from many different sources of art, and maybe has indicated at various points vaguely and maybe not so directly and maybe sort of directly that I don't know, he's been doing children's video games for a long time. So I don't know. Yeah, I really would be curious as to see what he would do if he had a creative life after Nintendo. But I think he's just committed to the company at this point. It's like he's way too valuable of a resource, and for Nintendo, for even the Japanese game industry, for the whole game industry, for the Japanese economy, even just like single-handedly, like, you know. And I hear he doesn't even get paid that much. Like, he gets paid like, I don't know, lower to mid six figures, even though like which is obviously he's doing fine, but like, obviously he's worth like billions of dollars and is making decisions affecting billions of dollars of revenue for this company. Like the market cap in Nintendo is like 60 billion or something like that. I don't know. So yeah, let's check this out. Let's have fun. Shoot them, everybody. Aren't we having so much fun? I am a grown man playing bombs. He's got to do the Uncle Miyamoto thing. Like, I remember how, like, I have a book called, Walt Disney, an American Original. And, like, I remember in the book they talked about how, like, when he made his appearances on Disneyland on television, like, he switched into this old Uncle Walt persona, which was, like, very marketable and stuff. But it didn't necessarily reflect who he was in real life and stuff like that. But like, he was happy to do it to like help promote things and stuff like that. Yeah, so I do wonder, of course, like how much Miyamoto's like playing up this like, oh, I'm Uncle Miyamoto at Nintendo, here to show you the cool games and stuff like that. You got to do what you got to do, and yeah, I think there must be some kind of peace somebody has in like having such a pivotal role in such a company that's meaningful to so many people. So I don't know, in an industry that's so meaningful. So that's me ranting about what's going on in the inner machinations of Miyamoto's mind. Yeah. So. Like, what? I'm not gonna say it. Like, there's probably like all kinds of like things that he's never allowed to say publicly and like get caught on YouTube saying or whatever. Like if he's shown on TMZ saying, you know, I hate children or like something worse than that. Like where the ladies at? It would like, oh, their stock value, it would go bam. Uncle Miyamoto, like, where, you know, I'm looking for my own Princess Peach, you know. Like, he's not allowed to say that ever on any public appearance anywhere in public. Like this face, those words are not allowed to come out of this man's face. Like anything even hinting at those kinds of intentions are not allowed to be said by this man. Ever. Or even implied, or like, yeah, never. Yeah.
よかったみたいです。次へ行きましょう。こちらではファミコンから Wii に至るまで様々なゲームをプレイできます。でもちょっと何か違いますよね。そうです。
Oh, here we go. Okay, my prediction came true. The giant controllers are making the game playable. That sounds like a bad day. Best wishes for them. Alright, two-player giant controller co-op. You gotta have this. I told you. If you're gonna have giant controllers, you gotta have the multiplayer. And, you know, these are probably going to be not working half the time, and like there's definitely going to be people like, you know, coming to play a specific game and then it's not going to be working and they're going to have to go home to their home country disappointed. Oh, they got the hidden one up. Yay, great. Oh, they got the jump. They did it. Nice! Yatta! Oh, they have giant Wiimotes too, that's funny. Wow, this is pretty fun. I think this is, in some ways this is like, they have even cooler interactions than they have at the Nintendo theme park too. And they're really trying to make this like a fun interactive museum. Like they're trying to make it not just like something for history and stuff, but also make it fun. And I think they probably try to play up as much of that as possible for this direct. Yeah, very cool, very cool.
製品の展示やインタラクティブな遊びの体験の他にも、ルールを知らなくても花札が遊べる体験があったり、花札を実際に作ってみることができるワークショップも開催します。
Oh, you can make your own Hanafuda cards.
館内には
Cafe, of course.
ハンバーガーが作れるカフェや
ハンバーガー。
ミュージアムだけの限定グッズを販売するショップも併設しています。任天堂は創業から100年を超える歴史の中でさまざまな娯楽を作ってきました。時代によって作り出した製品は異なりますが、家族みんなで楽しんでいただきたいという思いは今も昔も変わりません。この任天堂ミュージアムはそんな任天堂が大切にしてきた遊びと独創を大切にするものづくりへのこだわりを知っていただける場所です。皆さんにはそれを体験しながら実感してもらいたいと思って開発も一緒に社員が全力で作り上げてきました。任天堂ミュージアムは10月2日にオープンします。
October 2nd, that's soon. Wow. That's very soon.
そちらでご覧ください。
That must mean it's like pretty much already done. It's like late to mid-August already, so like it's like only a month away. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that must be so annoying for the staff, whoever works that front area. Oh my gosh. Alright, that was the Nintendo Museum Direct. Very cool. Let's link to that in the Notion doc. And yeah, let's copy. You know what? I'll do you a favor. Oh, look, it's the 13-minute version of it. They cut out the lead up premiere. Very cool. So let's just share this in the Notion doc for today. Let's skip the news segment. And then let's see. I don't know. We're an hour in. Happy broadcast we did last time already. Peak action. Ask Reddit. Let's do a little bit of Redditing. Ask Reddit. What difficult truths, the sooner you accept them, the better your life will be? And this Home Depot ad's really distracting. What do you guys think of that? What difficult truths, the sooner you accept them, the better your life will be? I don't know. I'm going to copy that into the chat. Let's think about this question of the day. I'm going to type something into the chat. I'm going to turn this down. I'm going to turn the volume up. Let's get the piano music playing.
Today, not tomorrow, not next week.
All right.
Today is the day. I hope you will donate.
So. All right. Sometimes all you need is luck. Yeah, that's true. I think that's very true. I think that's like effectively what I was gonna write. What I was gonna write was like this. There's no such. Okay, I wrote a really long thing. The Nintendo Museum looks really cool. I was going to go to the original Nintendo office building when I was in Kyoto to take a picture with the commemorative plaque, but I forgot. Oh, that would have been cool. Yeah, I think like they've just had like people showing up at their office hoping that something would be there. And because like people love Nintendo and they're like, oh, this should be fun and cool. And you know, like Disney's offices and Pixar campus and stuff has some kind of cool thing outside. But Nintendo just has a regular kind of office building for the longest time, so maybe it was like about time they do something just to like give people something to do. And then also treat it as an opportunity to create experiential kind of media and stuff like that, because I think they are branching out to that and trying to diversify from just video games, and they're trying to go into movies, they're trying to go into theme parks, they're kind of trying to go into stores, they're trying to go into museums, and just be an all-around entertainment company and merchandise company and a multimedia company. And yeah, and somehow they've just been able to just keep this gravy train rolling, just like generation after generation, making good decisions here and there. Like, I don't know, that's really tough to do as any kind of company. or any kind of endeavor in life in general. But I don't know, maybe it does tie to my truth that I was writing, and maybe we could put that in the Notion doc. Do you mind if I put your quote in the Notion doc, Druku, or should we just leave it in the chat? I'll put mine in the... Okay, cool. I'm gonna put this here. That's my quote of the day. All right, let's go for it. Like that's literally something that my that PR PhD tells me is like in poker, it's better to be lucky than to be a better player. A lot of the time, it can win more easily. And you could be a better player and win on average, but yeah. If you just get a certain number of bad beats, and like the other player just is lucky at a certain key moments, then that could just basically override any other stuff. So yeah, cool. These are some pretty good quotes. What difficult truths, the sooner you accept them, the better your life will be. There's no such thing as a perfect time, place, or person like there is in media. Everyone/everything is a mixed up mess of trying to figure things out in some way, shape, or form. And the fact that we're trying to do the right thing is good enough. Mudita Heart. Sometimes all you need is luck. Drew Koo. And yeah. Oh, ad break in progress. I guess we got an ad break. So let's get this ad break going. And yeah, when we get back from the ad break, we'll get into the history of anime.
I sent you the email a while ago.
There was a change during the meeting.
Kelsey,
Please
please check
update
on
your
this
website.
one.
I need to get an update. You never forget your first.
Okay, microphone's back. We're back to the stream, and I got my snack, and this is not a dream. I was not trying to make that rhyme, but I ended up trying to. Anyway, let's just watch history of anime. We don't have a lot of time, so we did want to watch the history of anime, and then maybe do a little bit of drawing ourselves of some anime. And then, yeah, after we do this, we're going to raid on over to Fort 90 stream on Wonderville NYC. So happy to have y'all join for that. And, yeah, please stick around for that. It's a very fun stream. And at least stay for the raid so it looks like, you know, there's like people rating and stuff, and hang out in the chat and like say a few things. I appreciate it. Every viewer counts at this point, in case you can't tell. Okay, so let's check out history of anime. Let's have a good time, have a snack, and yeah, let's check out history of anime. By Anime Every Day, a series documenting the history of anime. During this 6-episode series, I will talk about the most important and influential events in the anime industry. I did watch part 1, starting in kind of pre-anime history, and it looks pretty good, so let's check out more of it. So let's check it all out. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to my new series, The History of Anime. In this 6-episode series, I'll be going through the history
It is a
of anime,
YouTuber. It's
documenting
not
the
like
most
a
important and
documentary.
influential events in the development of Japanese animation. In this first episode, I'll be looking at where it all began with the early 1900s. This period is far from as glamorous.
Let me know if the audio is
as
doubling
old,
over.
but just as important. So where did it all start? Well, it's impossible to say exactly where, as most of the animation from the time was destroyed or lost. In a time where an animation would only have one copy released on film, it's very likely that that would have gotten damaged or lost. Although we do have some records of early Japanese animation. We can look back to 1907 as a good starting point with Katsudo Shashin. As of now, this is the earliest piece of animation we have from Japan. It's a 3-second animation where a boy writes something on
Katsudo Shashin.
In 1907,
Katsudo
Katsudo Shashin. As of now, this is the earliest piece of animation we have from Japan. It's a 3-second animation where a boy writes something on a wall and then turns to tip his hat. Although technically this is an anime.
Audio's doubling? Okay. We'll do it like this. I'll turn up the volume on my PC. And then, yeah, let me know if this is better. We'll just do it on the microphone.
But it was a whole decade later, in 1917, that we would get a solid piece of Japanese animation with Namakura Katana. It was still a very short animation, but started to show the Japanese style of animating. The animation technique used in these was called cutout animation. This is where animators would cut out objects and move them around. It was much cheaper than the higher quality cell animation other countries were using at the time. In 1923...
Imagine, like, doing this, like, Koto animation in 1917 and being like, Mom and Dad, I'm gonna go to animation school and become an anime artist. And, like, they'll be like, what? What are you doing? Nobody... Okay, it's better? Sweet. Imagine, like, audio's better. Cool. But, like, imagine telling your parents, I'm gonna go to art school and, like, be an anime artist. And, like, they're looking at, like, these janky things and, like... I don't know what you see in this, son. But like, I don't know. This is like the Walt Disney of the time, I guess, in Japan, I guess. So, I don't know. Or maybe not quite at that level yet, but yeah, interesting, huh? Burgeoning industry.
Style of animating. The animation technique used in these was called cutout animation. This is where animators would cut out objects and move them around. It was much cheaper than the higher quality cell animation other countries were using at the time. In 1923, there was a massive setback for Japanese animation, the Great Kanto Earthquake. This destroyed a lot of the animations at the time and pushed the industry back quite a bit. So as animation was progressing throughout the world with the...
Interestingly enough, I believe the Kanto earthquake is referenced in the Ghibli animated film The Wind Rises from 2012. Yeah, very formative for the nation of Japan.
Likes of Disney, Japan felt like they needed to catch up. Many animators started using cell animation. This gave the quality of their animations a massive boost. Works such as Ugohi Kore no Tekahiki and Ari-chan were created and looked much better than the previous cutout animation. Despite this, Japan still weren't on the same level as Disney, and the next few years didn't help at all. With the start of World War II, the majority of Japanese animation ended up being propaganda videos showing the Japanese soldiers fighting Americans. There wasn't really any room to express any artistic value here. Most of these were quite racist and violent, so I wouldn't recommend watching them. But if you do want to see what they're like, you could watch Momotaro no Imiwashi from 1943. But this period wasn't completely absent of progression. Momotaro's Divine Sea Warriors was created in 1945. and despite it being more propaganda commissioned by the Navy, it was Japan's first feature-length animated film. So there was a little lull in production for obvious reasons after World War II. But in 1948, a studio called Japanese Animation Studio was founded. They didn't create much under that name, but in 1956 they were bought by Toei, where it was transformed into Toei Animation, an animation studio that is still in business today. This is a massive stepping stone for Japanese animation, as it would kickstart the industry into worldwide competition. The first feature-length colour animation also came 2 years later as Haku Jaden in 1958. This pushed Japanese animation a step closer to the likes of Disney and kick-started the next decade of anime. So that's all for this period.
It is pretty wild how early. It is pretty wild how Toei got in so early, right?
Japanese animation really got started in the 1960s. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and share it around. And if you want to watch more of my videos, you can click subscribe or any of the other parts on the screen. Thank you very much for watching.
And, what's it called? Haku Jaden. Let's check out the trailer for Haku Jaden. The Tale of the White Serpents. I guess this whole thing is just up, I guess? Maybe due to copyright stuff or something? Let's just see the trailer because of time. Let's just watch this one. And funny enough, Hayao Miyazaki has described himself as being very moved by watching Haku Jaden, as like showing the potential for animation for him at the time. He was born a little before the end of World War II, and you know, one of his earliest memories was a firebombing from the U.S. Left a big impression on him, and yeah, when he was a student, he was studying to be an animator, and or like what moved him to study animation was when he was a teenager. He saw Haku Jaden when he was in his studying for his exams in high school. So yeah, if it wasn't for this movie, there wouldn't be a Hayao Miyazaki.
見せ物になってて辛かったの？ええ、少し。僕らは早速仲良しになったのさ。ずっと昔の恋。
Wow, even the uploader of this isn't even confident of like what this even is. Like the uploader is like, from what I've heard, I've with a lowercase I. This was the first anime to ever be in color, as well as one of the first anime dubs ever. It isn't the first anime, however that goes to Katsudo Shashin from 1907. I mean, this looks like... Wow. I mean, this looks like an animated film. Toei Doga. I need to switch tabs. Oh, whoops. You guys aren't seeing this? Oh, my bad. Slipped up on that one. Alright, let's keep it moving. Let's watch 2 minutes of this. Thank you, Druku. I don't know what I would do without you. Alright. I mean, this looks like an animation. Like it has like, it doesn't look like, I don't know. It seems watchable. It like, if I didn't know this was like the first animated film in Japan, the first anime, feature-length anime, I would be like, oh, this is just like a random thing. Not sure what's going on here. He's touching the orb! The orb man! Ah, the white serpents. Wow. And I feel like it's even more inspired by like, wow, look at these water animations. Wow. It kind of has a Disney quality to it with the vocal chorus. Wow. Cool. I forgot what I was going to say, but very cool. Let's add that. And then, yeah. Also, just something to highlight in when History of Anime talked about like anime being used for propaganda and whatnot. That's something that Hayao Miyazaki would go on to mention in like interviews in his book. Starting Point, which I have back here. I'm going to go on to say that Starting Point and Turning Point, Hayao Miyazaki, he would say that animation and all technologies would be eventually used for military purposes, and it seemed like that was present on his mind in his own lived experience, because he lived as a small child during World War II, and he like animation literally was used for military propaganda back then. So yeah, when he's saying that, he's not just saying that as an idle thing, like as some of us might forget today, but yeah, even in the US, Disney animations were used for military propaganda as well. So yeah, he's like, man, all technologies, including animation, can be used for military purposes. And that's him like smoking a cigarette, looking off into the distance and whatnot. And that's his way of warning us, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, he does other stuff now, and he tries to not lean into that. So yeah, let's get to History of Anime Part 2, 1960s. Should be exciting.
Hello and welcome back to the History of Anime. In the last episode we looked at the very beginning of Japanese animation. In this episode we're going back to look at the decade where anime really started to form its industry. During this decade anime started to air on TV and Japan got more recognition in the animation world. We see franchises begin that are considered some of the most important for the development of anime. Starting the decade off in 1961, Otogi Manga Calendar was aired on TV, making it Japan's first anime TV series. It aired for 4 years and documented various events in history with the use of animation. This was
I've never heard of this before. I don't even know what I'm looking at. This looks like I don't know, like Charlie Witzerbottom or whatever it's called. And
sneak peek in what the decade had.
Like a Hanna-Barbera thing or something.
So last episode we saw the founding of Toei Animation. At Toei Animation worked a man by the name of Osamu Tezuka. But in 1961 he left Toei Animation, created Mushi Productions, and started working on a number of anime that would come to be some of the most influential and important of his generation. The first
Here
would be
we
the
go.
well-known Astro Boy
Here's
series
the
in
boy.
1963. Astro
Astro
Boy
Boy.
really set the standard for shows in the 60s, and many studios were up for the challenge. Astro Boy followed the story of a powerful robot boy. Although the story might not have been as complex as shows to come, you can see Astro Boy's influence echoing through our anime series for decades to come. During the 60s, there were 4 or 5 main studios creating anime TV shows. Not only were there many new series created in this decade, but many new genres as well. Because there wasn't many solid anime shows or films created prior to the 60s, shows of this time had the opportunity to create their own genres. For example, Tetsuzen 28 Go, also in 1963, was one of the early mecha series that would help start the mecha boom in the 70s and 80s. Much like Astro Boy, you can see how this show influenced future anime.
Oh, wow.
It also successfully released in America a year later under the name of Gigantor. A few years
Gigantor.
later, in 1965, we see the release of Kimba the White
Kimba
Lion.
the White
This would
Lion.
be Japan's first coloured anime TV show.
Huh.
It would also be one of the more worldwide popular series at the time. People found it easy to watch as it was very similar to Disney's style. It was aired in loads of countries from Spain to Iran. A year later, in 1966, a show aired by the name of Sally the Witch. This was the first anime of the magical girl genre that would, like the mecha genre, blow up in the coming decades.
Wow, Sally the Witch was the very first magical girl. I've never seen this before. Wow. Huh.
It's also considered the first shoujo anime.
First shoujo anime. Cool. Huh.
09 would also start airing this year.
Yeah,
A show that
alright.
again would be very popular worldwide and continue its success for decades. As the decade came to a close in 1968, Tezuka stood down from Mushi Productions to work on various projects of his own. The company went bankrupt in 1973, but was restored later in 1977. The decade closed with various shows like Tiger Mask and Dororo. The 60s ended up being so revolutionary compared to the prior decades. It marked the start of anime TV series and the start of multiple massive genres. We saw the founding of many important studios that developed various individuals like Tezuka. Really one of the most important decades for anime. So join me next episode where we take a look at the 1970s, a decade where anime took another massive step forward with huge quality boosts and the start of more genres and subgenres. But thank you very much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please click the like button and share it around.
Let's screenshot this. Astro Boy. And then, what's it called? Sally the Witch. Here's Gigantor. Kimba the White Lion. Cyborg 009.
In 1966, a show aired by the name of Sally the Up in the company would also... It was the first anime of the magical girl genre that would, like the mecha genre, blow up in the coming decades. It's also... magical girl genre that would, like the mecha genre, blow up in the coming decades.
Pardon me for the repeat. For the sound. Just want to get this. And this will all be on the Notion doc, which you can see on the Discord after the stream. Yeah, Sally. Alright, let's check out the next video.
Hello and welcome to the third episode of the History of Anime. In this episode we'll be looking at the 1970s. During this decade we saw many more studios pop up and a huge peak in the amount of anime coming out. And the Japanese film industry started to drop as TV became more popular. This gave anime a big boost in popularity and talent. We kicked off the decade with Ashita no Jo in 1970, a boxing anime that gained quite a bit of popularity and influence for many future sports anime. We had the start of another popular franchise a year later in 1971, Lupin the Third. Lupin the Third helped push the popularity of anime and helped the future success of Miyazaki in the next decade. Madhouse was founded a year later in 1972. After Mushi Productions closed, many of the staff left to form Madhouse. They would go on to be one of the biggest studios in the industry. An equal important studio was founded in the same year, by the name of Sunrise. also comprised of ex-Mushi production members. They would be one of the main contributors to the mecha boom in the next few decades. One of the big contributors for the mecha boom actually came from Toei Animation in 1972 with Mazinger Z. This show introduced many of the core features we still see in mecha anime today. The list of influences Mazinger Z had on the genre is massive. It really was one of the most important mecha at the time. In 1974 we saw the arrival of another very influential piece of anime history, but this time it wasn't a genre. With the release of Hidi Girl of the Alps, Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata jumped into the industry. Although they had been involved with other projects in the past, this was one of their first successful works. The show, despite being quite different from the usual anime at the time, was very successful, not only in Japan but worldwide. The highly successful space battleship Yamato started airing in the same year. This would be another very successful anime, not only in Japan but worldwide. It got many dubs, including an English dub and a Greek dub. Yamato was a very important show as it started to push anime in the way of more solid storylines. Space operas would become a lot more prominent after this series. It was quite influential in terms of how serious anime started to become.
Wow, and this came out in 1974. Star Wars was a space opera, but that came out in 1977. So the Space Battleship Yamato came out 3 years before Star Wars did. Wow, think about that.
Candy Candy in 1976 was another one of the early successful shoujo shows. It took advantage of merchandise to improve sales of the show. Another important and influential space opera was Space Captain Harlock in 1978. It was yet another series that made itself around the world, gaining many foreign dubs. Possibly the most important series in this decade came right at the end, as Mobile Suit Gundam. Now this series is extremely important for many reasons, but maybe not the most obvious reasons. When the series first aired, it didn't do that well. In fact, it was so unpopular that the sponsors cancelled the show, cutting off 20 episodes at the end.
Wow.
It was after the show had aired that it became popular, and not through the anime, but through the range of toys that were released. The popularity of the show exploded, and reruns of the show started to get a massive amount of attention.
Wow, okay.
So after a
The
false
toys
start,
saved
Mobile
the
Suit
show.
Gundam started its lifelong influence. Much like Yamato, this series changed how anime was made. It was the start of a new and very important subgenre, the real robot genre. This is a realistic twist on the normal mecha genre, and one that would be used to high success in the mecha boom of the 80s. Mobile Suit Gundam's influence will be realised more in the next decade, but even in the 70s, its influence was incredible. Galaxy Express 999 had quite a controversial impact overseas. After its Japanese release, the film version was released in America, but they didn't just release it. They cut out 30 minutes of footage from the film and changed various names of the characters. This made many fans of the series quite angry, as they thought it was the wrong way to watch the film. Yet another important landmark was in 1979, with the Castle of Cagliostro. The movie wasn't super influential or successful itself. It was the directional debut for Hayao Miyazaki, who will also become very important in the next decade. So that concludes this very important decade. We see anime go from a fairly small medium for Japanese television to a worldwide market. But anime didn't stop in the 70s. In fact, the 70s was really a setup for the next decade. A decade where we see anime evolve more than it has ever done before. So join me next time where I take a look at the 1980s. If you did enjoy this episode, please do click the like button and leave a comment with your thoughts on the decade. Thank you very much for watching, and remember to subscribe for more anime videos.
Yeah, I recognize all these. It's kind of staggering to think about how long Hayao Miyazaki's career in animation has been. Yeah, I don't know, just so many decades. Wow, this part's 6 minutes.
Hello and welcome to another episode of History of Anime. In the last episode we looked at the 1970s, where mecha anime evolved and space operas became popular. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at arguably the most important decade in the history of anime, the 1980s. Kicking off the decade in 1981 with Mamoru Oshii's Urusei Yatsura. The popular series would use a less serious approach of pop culture references and other comedic bits. Over time, the franchise has gained quite a following worldwide for its unique take on humour. A year later, in 1982, the very important Macross franchise was born. The 1982 TV series was the first of many releases from the franchise. The series was very popular and very influential. Macross was one of the key contributors to the rise of space operas in the 80s. It's also held as one of the early series to really successfully blend the mecha genre and the romance genre. Captain Tsubasa in 1983 was one of the early successful sports anime. It was a football anime that was popular all around the world. It's even been mentioned by actual footballing legends such as Zidane and Messi. It would introduce the
Messi.
formula that sports anime would use for decades. Around this time, American publishers started using Japanese animators and studios for their cartoons.
Wait, hold on. Messi and Captain Tsubasa? On Reddit r Captain Tsubasa. Lionel Messi, a great fan of Captain Tsubasa, finally won the World Cup and became the real Captain Tsubasa. I need a citation here. TheNationalNews.com. Drew an illustration on stage. I can't find it. Okay, we don't have a lot of time to get through by this. That's interesting.
Shows like G.I. Joe and Transformers were animated by Japanese animation studios.
Oh, Japanese animation.
Not only did they use Japanese animators, but they also used Japanese franchises. For example, Robotech was a combination of 3 older anime titles. The first OVA was released in 1983 by Mamoru Oshii as Dalos, but it didn't sell that well at the time, so it would be another few years before OVAs became popular. One of the key studios of the next few decades would be founded later in 1984 as Gainax. Dragon Ball was released in the same year and opened up a whole new genre, the martial arts genre. This genre would go on to be one of the most commercially successful anime genres ever. The Dragon Ball franchise would continue to release anime right up to the current day with the recent Battle of the Gods movie. Another massive stepping stone for anime was in the same year, with Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. This is an important movie for many reasons. It allowed more experimental projects to be funded as publishers now knew that there could be more popular anime other than just space operas. The next few years would host countless boundary-pushing films that would expand the industry more than it has ever done before. It also gave Miyazaki and Takahata the chance and funding to start Studio Ghibli a year later in 1985. The studio that would obviously go on to create countless classics and make an unbelievable amount of money. The sequel to 1979's Mobile Suit Gundam was released in 1985 as Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. When it was released, it became the most successful real robot space opera ever. It's still one of the most popular and most critically acclaimed Gundam series ever. Following the failure of the Dalos OVA, multiple OVAs were released in 1985, this time with much more success. Megazone 23 was released and sparked loads of studios to release OVAs. OVAs changed how anime could be made, as studios could delegate less funds and time to create more experimental things.
OVAs allowed more experimentation, right?
OVAs were also used to test how popular shows would be without having to fund a full TV series. Because of the changes in the last few years, the rest of the 80s was very different from the first half. More films were made and more risks were taken with experimental movies. Laputa was released in 1986. It was Ghibli's first film. Like Nausicaa, Laputa was very revolutionary and influential.
Right, technically Nausicaa was not Ghibli yet, but it had a lot of the people that would go on to be in Studio Ghibli, because the studio itself is not formed yet. Yeah.
It was very different for its time, and made a good starting point for the studio. A year later, Gainax finally got around to releasing their first film.
Starting point.
Wanting to follow the success of Nausicaa, they released Royal Space Force. It had a huge budget compared to its predecessors, and it really showed. Backgrounds were some of the most detailed anime I'd ever seen, and the animation was incredibly smooth. Because of the movie's scale, it pushed other studios to spend even more money the following year. Unfortunately, the movie didn't make that much money in the box office, but Gainax managed to not go bankrupt. Akira was released a year later, to an even bigger scale. It was Japan's most expensive animated movie ever, but in Japan it didn't sell that well. Because of these two failures, the streak of releasing experimental high-budget films came to an end. Many studios had to close, and it was only really Ghibli who could continue making these types of films. The sponsors returned to only funding safe projects. Despite Akira's failure in Japan, it made its way around to the West and had a massive impact. For many people, Akira was their first taste of Japanese animation.
wow.
It quickly gained a cult following and critics praised it as a huge landmark for anime. Despite being a financial failure in Japan, Akira became one of the most influential and important sci-fi films of all time because of its amazing world and stunning animation. It also opened up the international industry as anime would become a lot more popular overseas in the coming decades. Gunbuster also came out in 1988. The animation didn't age as well as the other shows, and it didn't have a massive budget, but it did serve as a setup for Anno's Evangelion in the next decade. 1988 also hosted 2 Ghibli movies, Grave of the Fireflies and My Neighbor Totoro. The industry really hit its peak in 1988. With the commercial failure of Akira, nobody wanted to fund big experimental projects anymore. The Japanese economy crashed at the end of the decade, making even more studios close down and even fewer anime come out. This would then go into effect the next decade quite a lot. To top the misfortune off, Osamu Tezuka passed away due to stomach cancer in 1989. Despite the negative end to the 80s, up until 1988, the decade changed anime more than it ever changed before. It changed from a small industry with limited funding to something that could be internationally successful with the ability to be experimental and different. Anime became more mature, and we even see things like Angel's Egg that would have never been released in previous decades.
Right, Angel's Egg.
Budgets and production quality also massively soared, with things like Akira and Royal Space Force. Overall, the 80s was a hugely important decade for the industry, well deserving of the title, the golden age of anime. So join me next time as I take a look at how the 90s dealt with both the industry crash and the economic crash. But for now, thanks for watching this episode of History of Anime. If you enjoyed, please click the like button and subscribe for more anime related videos.
Alright, let's keep this moving.
Hello and welcome to another episode of History of Anime. In the last episode we looked at the 1980s, where anime tried many new formulas and budgets shot through the roof. Following the crash of the late 80s, in this episode we're going to be looking at the 90s. Last episode we talked about how big budget films like Akira and Royal Space Force didn't make their money.
Let's take a quick moment here to look at the trailer for Akira. Wow, holy moly.
Near Tokyo is going to change soon.
What'd you do? You weird little... Hands on your heads!
This boy's pattern is the key to solving the riddle of Akira's growth pattern process.
I don't know who that is!
If this situation gets out of hand, that needs to be terminated.
What the hell's going on? The plan is in place already. Don't do it!
We get to meet Akira again.
Akira?
Don't hurt anyone else!
If you push yourself, you might do irreparable damage.
From legendary director Katsuhiro Otomo comes one of the greatest animated films of
All time. Wow. Just watching this. I need to watch this. I gotta watch this week. I'll watch it tomorrow.
Covered by a big shadow, and lots of people died. So many people will die.
Damn it! It ain't fair, Tetsuo! Fight with your bare hands!
Wow. Holy moly. Yeah, I can see why why people love anime now. There we go.
Back. So the industry went into a decline.
Let's keep moving.
The Japanese economy also crashed around this time, declining the anime industry even more. Because of this, there was little of note for the first few years. One of the early things to happen in the 90s was a brief comeback of the super robot genre. It started in 1990 with Brave X Kaiser, and again in 1992 with Tetsujin 28 Go FX.
Well, what are those? Brave X Kaiser and 20X Go FX?
A sequel to the original. This didn't last long due to the state of the industry, and a certain mecha that would come a few years later. Akira's creator Katsuhiro Otomo returned in 1991 with Raijin Z. The movie was fairly successful but didn't reach the scale of Akira. Dragon Ball Z, the sequel to Dragon Ball, would start airing in 1993. This became super popular in both Japan and America. Merchandise was a big seller and it played on many TV stations. Compared to the last decade, real robot anime didn't get produced as much. There was less desire for the genre, but there was still desire for the Gundam franchise. In 1994, Mobile Fighter G Gundam aired and became one of the few real robot anime of its time. It still wasn't as successful as the previous decade. Ratings were low compared to other Gundam shows. Up until this time, the industry was still in a decline. Sales were down and funding was low. But in 1995, the industry's luck turned around. The movie Ghost in the Shell by Mamoru Oshii was released in 1995. The film was both successful in the box office and critically successful. This pushed the industry back to its peak of 1988, but this time, the experimental films became a success. Ghost in the Shell really changed anime after its release. It had a huge impact on the types of anime being made, and even influenced big Western films like The Matrix, ultimately giving anime more recognition. Ghost in the Shell was a very important film for boosting the industry back up, and encouraging the funding of experimental films again. Another one of anime's biggest landmarks also came in 1995, as Hideaki Anno's Neon Genesis Evangelion. The massively controversial show impacted the industry so much. Firstly, it helped Ghost in the Shell boost the industry back from its declining period. It really revived the industry that had been struggling for almost half a decade. One of the more important outcomes of Evangelion was the newly made trust and freedom given to the creators of the show. After Eva's success, sponsors allowed more control to be given to directors and writers, ultimately pushing anime in a more cinematic direction. Anime became more artistic and expressive, instead of just commercial. Because of this, many shows like Serial Experiments Lain were made later in the decade. It also popularised a new style of mecha anime that would be used right up to the current day. Otaku culture grew and became more mainstream in Japan as it gained popularity from the show's controversy. Both Ghost in the Shell and Evangelion were responsible for the industry's revival, and most of the shows we have today. The super popular Sailor Moon began airing a year later in 1996. It aired weekly for 5 years, after only being given 6 months. It quickly became one of Japan's most successful franchises, especially in the merchandise, where it made over $1 million. The next again year, Princess Mononoke was released by Studio Ghibli. This was an incredibly expensive movie, but this time it paid off. The movie done fantastically at the box office in Japan, and even became a success on physical release in America. The movie was much more successful than most other anime of its time, and it was even the most successful film of the year until the release of Titanic. Like Ghibli's other films, it pushed the industry in a more creative direction, inspiring more people to push the boundaries of anime. In the same year, a show started airing that really needs no explanation. Adapted from the video game, Pokemon hit the market to a huge success. The super successful franchise would spawn countless movies, series, and specials for years to come.
Man, like, they said Gundam Wing, DBZ, Ghost in the Shell, Neon Genesis Evangelion, Sailor Moon, Princess Mononoke, Pokemon, hit after hit after hit, man.
After the controversy and then success of Evangelion in 1995, Anno was given the opportunity to create a movie as an alternative ending to the TV series that suffered from budget cuts near the end. The movie became a massive success in the box office, and is still to this day one of the most talked about anime movies of all time. The show spawned a period of certain shows that were named post-Evangelion shows. Stuff like Brain Powered and Gasuraki were listed. Satoru Kon made his directorial debut in 1997 with Perfect Blue. It was very revolutionary in how far it strayed from the conventional track of movie making. It was critically acclaimed worldwide. Cowboy Bebop aired first in 1998. Despite the name it has now, Bebop started off with a rocky release. It originally aired with TV Tokyo, who
Perfect Blue, Cowboy Bebop
only aired certain episodes due to the violent content. They then cancelled the show due to poor ratings. It was then fully aired a year later on a separate TV network, but still didn't garner that much success. Bebop's success doesn't really lie in Japan, but in the West. In 2001, it aired on Adult Swim. Here it became a big success and continued to air for 4 years. It came back to air countless times again on Adult Swim, right up to 2013. Cowboy Bebop brought anime to the masses of America, and became one of the key players in bringing anime to the West. Serial Experiments Lane also aired in 1998. It was possibly the most experimental show to air in this decade, as it completely threw away the traditional storytelling style. It was very well received by critics, and became very influential for future anime. After the success of Princess Mononoke in Japan, Disney brought over the movie to the West. Due to it having the famous Disney name behind it, many people went to see it in the cinemas, and it was received very positively. This was a massive encouragement for Disney to bring more Ghibli films over in the future. So that's been the 1990s. It was an incredible decade for many reasons.
Wow.
Despite its poor start, the decade managed to revive itself and expand anime as an industry. Anime changed so much over the course of this decade. It became more expressive and experimental, and the industry supported this change. The 90s shaped what anime is today, so the next episode, in the final episode, we'll be looking at the 2000s to the current day. But that's all for this episode. If you enjoyed the video and want to support me, click the like button and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.
We don't have a lot of time, so we're just gonna keep watching the next part and then raid over to Wonderville TV for 490 TV. This video goes to 2015.
Hello and welcome to the 6th and final episode of History of Anime.
Which
Last
is 10 years
episode we
ago.
looked at the 1990s.
So another part is
So this
due.
episode we're going to be looking at the 2000s and the 2010s. This episode is going to be a bit different from the other episodes. And normally shows tend to take quite a while to become influential or important, so many shows that I'm going to be talking about in this episode might not have reached their full potential,
Oh boy.
despite being out for a
Some
number
of
of years
them
already.
probably
The
are
last
still
decade has
going
also
on
been
now.
extremely different in terms of how anime is distributed and viewed. With the growth of the internet and worldwide connection, anime has become more than just something that's played on Japanese TV. One of the biggest developments has been the explosion of high-budget films coming out each year, starting in 2001 with a number of massive titles. Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away was released in 2001 to
Huge.
massive success. When it released, it made more than 30 billion yen, becoming the most successful Japanese film of all time, and still holds that title today. Like most other Ghibli films of its time, Spirited Away was very popular overseas,
Until
making
Frozen.
millions of dollars from the various countries it was shown in. Satoshi Kon also released the film in 2001 under the name of Millennium Actress. Like his other films, it was praised by critics worldwide for its unique production. Unfortunately, the film was not nearly as successful as Spirited Away. A follow-up to one of the most important shows from the last episode was released in 2001 as well, Cowboy Bebop the movie. Despite being attached to a TV series that didn't have the best of starts, it became a success, making over $3 million worldwide. As you can see, movies were coming into a time where freedom was available for everyone who could make something good enough. There was no longer a set formula that studios had to follow to receive funding. This carried on throughout the decade. During the 90s, the real robot genre had a brief comeback, but if you can remember, it never gained enough popularity to completely bring the genre back. In 2002, Mobile Suit Gundam Seed was released to huge success, both when it was aired on TV and when it had its physical release. It's still to this day one of the best-selling anime releases of all time. This time, the real robot genre was back to stay, as real robot shows were released throughout the decade to great success. Shows like Eureka 7, Code Geass, and Macross Frontier became some of the most successful shows of the decade. Anime adaptations started to really become popular during this period. Manga, light novels, and eroge were all adapted into anime TV series and movies.
Okay.
One of the early successes was Canon in 2002, an adaptation of an eroge. It was one of the decade's early examples of moe anime, something we'll be talking about quite a lot in this episode. It was then adapted again by another studio in 2006 to greater success. The successful Ghost in the Shell franchise would be busy over the next few years with a TV series and a sequel movie. The TV series was released in 2002 as Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. It was very successful and sold very well. There was also a second season 2 years later in 2004 that sold even more. Also in 2004 was the sequel to the 1995 movie, Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence. The movie was successful, especially in America where it made over $300,000 in its opening weekend. Moe hit the scene in 2006, with shows like Lucky Star, Haruhi Suzumiya, and the KyoAni adaptation of the aforementioned canon. Many of these series became extremely popular, especially Haruhi Suzumiya, that became one of the most successful anime releases of all time. Haruhi also became one of the shows that pushed the otaku culture worldwide, as the show became massively popular in other countries. An interesting commentary on the growing otaku culture was released in the same year. Welcome to the NHK looked at many problems from modern Japan, like suicide and hikikomoris. One of the highlights of the 90s, Evangelion, returned in the form of a new film series in 2007. Titled Rebuild of Evangelion, Hideaki Anno and his new studio, Studio Kara, kicked off the series of very successful films that have yet to conclude. As of now, there are 3 films, and a 4th is expected soon. Gurren Lagann was released in 2008 to massive success under the super robot genre from the 70s. Like the real robot genre, the super robot genre was brought back to the modern audience to great sales. The very popular Haruhi Suzumiya franchise returned in 2010 with the movie release of The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya. It was a box office success and sold very well with its Blu-ray release. One of the more recent successful series is Attack on Titan that took the whole industry by storm. With the online streaming industry growing, Attack on Titan became massively popular overseas on services like Netflix and Crunchyroll. Its online success is a great look into the kind of shows we'll be seeing in the future, and a good example of how an anime can break into the Western television market. The Wind Rises was released by Studio Ghibli and was Miyazaki's self-proclaimed last film. The following year, Studio Ghibli halted production. Poor sales were credited for this. So that pretty much wraps up this video. Obviously it would have been impossible to mention everything in the last decade or so, as the amount of anime being produced has soared in the last 15 years. Despite the criticism modern anime receives, you can't deny that the industry has changed and grown so much in the last 15 years. The amount of freedom creators are given to create new and experimental anime is more than ever before. Sure, sales haven't been soaring in the last few years, but anime is changing, and for the good. With the birth of the internet and growing technology of computers, anime has all the potential in the world to turn into an even bigger industry. Like we saw with Attack on Titan, shows now have the opportunity and potential to reach a broader audience with the help of Netflix and other streaming services. I'm very eager to see where the industry will be in the next 10 years. So, that's been the history of anime. It's been very enjoyable reading up about anime to produce these videos. I've learned quite a lot while doing these. I created these videos with the goal of making a single, accessible location for anyone to come and learn about the history of Japanese animation. I hope I did a good job. If you did enjoy this series, I would really appreciate it if you could share it around with your friends or fellow anime viewers. I put a lot of time and effort into making this series, so if you can support my channel by sharing, clicking the like button and subscribing, I would be very happy. But most of all, thank you very much for watching.
Alright. Let's try to draw Astro Boy real quick, and then we'll go raid Wonderville. Let me see if I can draw Astro Boy on MS Paint. And let's window capture. Seems like it's not visible. There we go. There we go. Absolutely perfect. This is amazing. This is perfect. Definitely the Mega Man influence and the boots and whatnot. Flawless. Flawless. Hey, not bad. What do we think, folks? Not bad? Can't tell the difference. They're the same picture. Let's copy this. See if I can put this side by side somehow. There we go. There we go. The same picture. There we go. Perfect. Nailed it. All right, folks. We're gonna raid over to Wonderville if they're streaming. Let's see if they're streaming or not. Where's Wonderville at? It's muted. Tonight they're streaming the best of Fortnite TV, the first 3 years. What? Uh-oh. Stream together. Whoops. Find streamers you can collaborate with here. The collab icon means you can knock to collaborate. You can knock from their channel page or from your following list. Knock to ask Miso Kaneko to collaborate. I don't think some of these people are going to let me collaborate with them. Knock to collaborate with Saikuno, of course, you know. That'd be great. That would sound fantastic. Hello, knock knock. Who's there? Tonight they're doing best of Fortnite TV, the best in the past 3 years. So hope y'all enjoy joining for that. Yeah, this is their 3-year anniversary, and they're on Wonderville NYC's.twitch. Wonderville is a great space in Brooklyn, New York. I'm also in New York City, but I'm in Queens now. And yeah, it looks something like this. We're going to join here soon. So yeah, feel free to join. Please stick around to join for the stream and say some stuff in the chat. Bye-bye, everyone. Hope you had a good time checking out the history of anime. Shout out to Drew Koo. Shout out Useless Happy. What else? Shout out to PRPHD for working today. Hope you're having a good day at work. Shout out to Wonderville. I have to wait another X amount of time to give another shout out. Shout out Wonderville NYC. They're going to be doing Fortnite tonight. Yeah, I don't know. Let's have a good one. And raid message, Mudita raid. What should be the raid message tonight? Sometimes all you need is luck. Sometimes all you need is anime. Also, check out Genshin Impact using my link if you want. Sometimes all you need is anime. That's my raid message tonight. So when you raid, share that, I guess. Share a bunch of that. Sometimes all you need is anime. Alright, take it easy, folks. I'll see you there. And yeah, maybe I'll see y'all at Anime NYC or whatnot. And yeah, we'll be streaming. Me and Pure PhD will be streaming on Thursday this week as well. Same time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And yeah, this Thursday. And I'll keep y'all posted on my memoir. Check out my Substack. Shameless self-promo. You know where to find me. Mudita on everything. Twitch, Itch, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, all that. So yeah. Alright. Take care, folks. See you at the Fort 90 stream. Take care. Peace.